Okay, so hi again. It's been a while since I've done a video, and there's a reason for that. My last video, other than wedding ones, my last video about gear was telling you how I changed from Nikon to Sony, how I'd got the A7 IV, the A9 II, and some lenses and that sort of thing. And you know what? I got a bit beaten up by that. I got a lot of comments from a lot of people saying, well, you know, why did I change from Nikon? Lots of people like I really insulted them or something like that because I've changed from Nikon to Sony, and you know, Sony's rubbish, and all sorts of comments. So I've kind of held off making another video about gear until I kind of had something to say. So we're now halfway through March. I've done 7, I think it is, weddings. So 6 or 7 weddings this year. A couple of engagement shoots, a couple of boudoir shoots, and I think I've got to know the Sony Gear quite well, and therefore good time maybe to have an update. Let me first say, before you Nikon guys get too upset, we've still got the 780. I've still got a 700 somewhere, it's over there, and I've still got a Z5 with a few lenses. So I haven't completely given up on Nikon, but I have given up on Nikon for my wedding work. Weddings are really demanding, and if you missed the last video, or if you watched it and turned it off halfway through because you weren't happy, the reason I've changed from Nikon to Sony was for these things. For the Sony G Master prime lenses. The problem with Nikon and their Z cameras is, for me, for weddings, their prime lenses do not do the job. 1.8 prime lenses I felt were plasticky. I didn't like the images. They just didn't feel like top quality gear. This stuff from Sony it feels like top quality gear. It is top quality, it really is, and it's for the lenses that I changed from Nikon to Sony. What are the best Sony cameras to have for a wedding? Well, I couldn't decide between the A7 IV and the A9 II, so I got one of each, and they both have their place at a wedding. I'm not going to talk too much about the cameras. They're brilliant, they do a fantastic job. Their autofocus, which is obviously very important for a wedding photographer, is, I had the Z8 and I gave that up for the, I guess the A9 II is the sort of closest replacement to that, and the autofocus on the A9 II is, in my experience, real world at a wedding, I find the Sony to be every bit as good, and possibly even slightly better than the Nikon Z8. It's actually got a few other advantages as well. The battery life is absolutely stunning. I can get well over 1,000 shots from the A9 II. You know, it's a small camera. It hasn't got I've got a wedding tomorrow, so I don't want a flat battery. Yeah, the battery lasts for ages. The A7 IV is more like a normal sort of mirrorless camera. It's about 600-700 shots, I suppose. But as I say, well over 1,000 for the A9 II, which is great. It's got a nice lot of dials on top. I can set things without going into the menu, thankfully, because it's not a great menu. But once it's set up, I found it absolutely fantastic for weddings. Brilliant. Back to the lenses. Yep, Nikon do their 1.2 lenses. But if you look at the 85 1.4 G Master is that big. I obviously haven't got an 85 Nikon 1.2, but I would say it's at least another 1.5 inches, possibly even 2 inches longer, and about the same size, and probably at 30% more weight than this. It's absolutely humongous, and obviously at a wedding I'm carrying these things around 8-9 hours, and that extra weight really makes a difference. Let me show you some of the images I've got from all of these lenses. So we've got a 24, all 1.4 G Masters, 24, 35, 50 and 85. We'll have a look at some images in a moment, and you'll see why I'm now very, very happy with what I'm getting from Sony. And I'll just mention my last edition, which was only the last couple of days, which is the, I don't know if you can see this, the Samyang 24 to 70 2.8. Samyang, but that's rubbish. Why would a professional wedding photographer use a Samyang? Well, the answer is it's actually an astoundingly good lens. I watched loads of reviews and bought it from I think it was Park Cameras, who offered a 14-day return, no questions asked. So I thought I'll buy it, I'll try it, give it a go at a wedding, see how it works. If I don't like it, I'll send it back and maybe then change to Sony. But at, what is it, less than half the price of the Sony, I am actually blown away by the quality of the images from the Samyang. It's extremely well built, it feels lovely. It's the heaviest of the 24 to 70 primes you can get for Sony. The zoom ring is absolutely like silk. It's absolutely gorgeous. I've had lots and lots of Nikon lenses and Sigma zooms and so on and so forth. This is absolutely like silk. It's gorgeous. It's not so loose that it'll move. It's, you know, it'll stay where you put it, but there's no stickiness. It doesn't, you know, require any effort to move it. It's lovely. And the images are actually, if you're after sharpness, and if you know me, you know that sharpness isn't the most important. It is important, but when you look at the images from this and you zoom in, they are actually every bit as sharp as the G Master lenses. So let's go take a look at some images. I'll show you a few from each of the lenses, apart from the Samyang, because I haven't edited the photos from the wedding a couple of days ago. I haven't got those yet, but I'll show you all the prime lenses. Have a look. Hopefully you'll understand why I've gone to Sony and why I'm going to be sticking with Sony. And just let me say about Nikon, I don't want to rubbish Nikon. I've shot with Nikon since 1990, but for me they've really lost it. The the Z6 II, which was my second camera alongside the Z8 at the end of last year. I mean, compared to these Sony cameras, it's just rubbish. The AF is just completely in a different planet. It's just nowhere near good enough. I managed to do weddings with the Z6 II, but once you pick these things up, you just realise just how bad the Z6 II's AF it was. And they've been talking about the Z6 III, Z7 III for a long time. Have we got it? We haven't got it. When is it going to be announced? I mean, even if it's announced next week, it'll probably be another 3 months before you can actually buy the thing. And all it's going to do, I fear, is catch up with the A7 IV, and probably won't even touch the A9 II in terms of autofocus. So Nikon really are playing catch up since mirrorless cameras came in, what, 2019, 18? Nikon have been on the back foot and they just haven't managed to get in front of the game. And sad to say, they are not the right job for me as a wedding photographer. So that's enough said. Let's go and take a look at some photos. Okay, so we're going to start off with the 24 1.4. Now this wasn't shot at 1.4, as you can see, it's at 6.3, bride's prep, and this is more to show you the sort of image quality in terms of not just sharpness, but the colours, the way it captures light and shadow. It just looks a great shot. It really is a very nice shot. I like that sort of shot. Let me get to some other photos that have actually made it to also useful for some of the group shots. In fact, I use the 24 for almost all of the group shots until we get down to some of the really small groups. Some I'm slightly surprised that I didn't change to the 35 or even the 50 for this shot, but let's have a look at the sharpness. If you're interested in the sharpness, hopefully this is coming out okay in the video. Now we're at 5.6 because obviously I've got more than one person to be in focus, so I did want quite a few people in focus. But you can see that we've still got some nice background blur. We've got the bricks and the bush completely out of focus there, so that was the right sort of aperture to have for this sort of shot. Very nice shot again. It's a great lens for capturing moments and documentary type photography, where you can get really in close with groups and get some nice shots like this. Again, let's just have a zoom in. Bit of noise at 1250. I don't think I've done any noise reduction on this. It is one thing I will say, the Nikon cameras probably had slightly better, were slightly better regarding noise, but at the end of the day, if I just come down to detail, and I've got no noise reduction on at all. If I just give it a little bit of noise reduction, a little bit more, and all the noise is gone. So it's really not an issue at all. You get some nice outdoor shots, and again the image quality, other than sharpness, still looks lovely. Got lovely light. It just captures the shadows and the highlights very nicely indeed. Let's have a look at a few 35mm shots. Okay, one here from the engagement shoot. Nothing particularly clever, but still nice colours. This was back in autumn. This was when I literally must have been the first week I got the A7 IV. At 1.4, lovely background blur, nice and sharp. Some of the details at a wedding. Shot at 5.6. Again, nice. I have done some work on this. I think I've yes, it's at 12,800. When I'm shooting weddings, I set the minimum shutter speed to 250th of a second, because people move, and people have only got to just move their head slightly and you'll get a blurred picture. One of the things that Sony doesn't do is on their aperture priority mode, if you set auto ISO, you don't have much choice about the minimum shutter speed. I think it drops from 2/50th of a second to 1/60th of a second. Now 1/60th for most pictures where I've got people involved, say like this, would be too slow. I don't want 1/60th of a second. I'd really like 200th of a second, but you're not able to set that. So it's a bit of a downside, but it just means the ISO is a little bit higher than it would be maybe on a Nikon camera. But as I've just shown, not too much of a problem to fix that afterwards. We had a wedding here where the colours were absolutely horrendous, and it dealt with that fine. The whole church, as you can see, we had a couple of lights in the ceiling here, and you can't actually see them, but all the way along, I don't know if I can show them to you on this shot, all the way along we had these heaters, like infrared heaters, kicking out unbelievably red light, and I was really pleased when I got back here in Lightroom. I was able to actually make the photo look reasonably realistic. It's still a bit on the red side, but yeah, we got there okay. I got some fairly decent looking skin tones in spite of the horrendous colours. And let's go on to the 50. Now the 50 is my absolute favourite prime lens. It's absolutely gorgeous. Again, another engagement shot. File could not be found. Why on earth not? I'm sorry about that. I didn't realise that. Let's pick someone else's then. And a couple shot signing the register. Again, and I'm showing the sharpness. It's got a nice sharpness to it. It's not. So I don't know, sometimes some lenses, when they're really sharp, they just look so, it actually looks artificial. This just looks like you've put your glasses on and got really close to someone, and that's what you'd see. So it looks a very natural sort of sharpness, and certainly on the 50 it's really pleasant to look at. The other thing is, of course, the Sony camera is, both the cameras, the eye autofocus is brilliant. If I take you back to here, I would have been focusing on, I'm not sure if it was a left or right, probably a left eye, I would have guessed, through glasses, which can sometimes be a problem. And I'm not sure if you can see this on the video, but certainly her eye is much more in focus than his eyes. And as we're at 1.4, obviously he's going to be slightly out of focus. So AF works absolutely brilliantly. Again, nice colours, and with one click on a preset I can turn it from being super sharp into being really pretty soft and sort of floaty looking. It's very, the photos from the Sonys are very flexible, very adaptable. And finally, the 85. Nice black and white shot. And another place where the colours were absolutely crazy, and the camera dealt with it really well. This was actually a tea room for their reception with some, what was it? I forgot the name of it now. Something cosy tea room. The light was incredibly dark, and in fact when I got there I thought there's no way I'm going to shoot any of these shots at 250th of a second, so I changed my auto ISO down to 125th of a second, and I think I probably shot almost every single shot wide open at 1.4 to keep the ISO pretty low. Focusing, no problems whatsoever. And I was just actually going to find, let me just go back and get it's probably 35, a first dance shot if I can find one, of how it deals with low light. We've got some sparklers here. Doesn't get much darker than sparklers. It was, as you can see, pitch dark outside. I didn't use flash. I had a little, well, I had a Rotolight Neo 2, which I was just hand holding on my left hand, pointing it down towards the bride and groom. I was some reasonable distance away, so it wasn't overly bright on their faces. And again, no problems focusing, absolutely spot on. Okay, so I've actually had to go to the 24mm lens to get some first dance shots. I tend to shoot 24 on one camera and 85 on the other. Again, if it works focusing wise and colour wise on a first dance, then it's a pretty good lens stroke camera combination. I liked that. Of course the colours were changing every second. These lights, as I say, change colours multiple times every second almost, so there was no way to I'd do anything other than just capture everything as it was. And whilst we're not going to get things that sharp in focus at 1/60th of a second, in almost pitch darkness, with backlights, still a damn good shot. So I'm very happy with everything about these cameras, and I'm not trying to persuade you to change to Sony. If you've got Nikon and think, well, you like Nikon, stick with Nikon. But I just wanted to explain how I'm getting on with these Sony cameras. If you're thinking of changing to Sony, you might find it useful. And I'll finish off by saying that the wedding photography course, which I've been threatening to work on for months and months, is almost finished. Within the next few weeks I should be getting a video out about my wedding photography course. I'll be back with you then. Thanks for watching.